Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on the show so much because you're a person that obviously I know personally, I've been friends with for a long time, but you're a person who inspires me greatly when it comes to like the creative journey that, I go on in life. So I'm just so excited to talk to you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm really humbled and actually really excited. It was fun to kind of think about the creative process because I'm always just doing it and not really thinking about it from an outside point of view. So this was been already has been very interesting for me too.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting that you bring that up. I haven't really thought about that aspect of it, like how it maybe forces, even doing this kind of forces us to sort of step back and think about the creative.
Yeah. Even for this, I was like, I should prepare for this. And it's just pretty much the approach I do for any design project is stepping back a little bit first and then kind of assessing the whole situation and seeing, okay, what do I need to do first before I actually say something?
Ever since I've known you, of course, I know you as this just creative force to be reckoned with. And is that something that was always in you? Like, do you feel like from a young age you were creative?
So I didn't have a very direct path. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was growing up. I did lean towards certain activities that were creative, like I love drawing. When it was time to sort of make these adult decisions about what I wanted to do with my career and how to support myself, I sort of wavered a bit because I wasn't sure. And I kind of it wasn't that it was frowned upon with my culture. It was just more, it didn't seem like a practical thing to pursue in the beginning. So I tried a couple of things that didn't work out. And in the end, I went back to studying creative graphic design. It was just something that I was naturally drawn to.
Hmm.
So that led me to where I am today. So a big part of my journey wasn't just that I wanted to pursue graphic design. I read a book in my 20s and it was called To Find Balance. And it didn't have anything to do with graphic design, but it did open my eyes to the fact that I knew so very little of the world. And through that book, it just made me want to travel more, read more, go to school more. And it was because of that, I was pushed, I think, to develop a process that made me really appreciate design and studying it even more.
Hmm. Yeah. And that travel, that's interesting. Do you feel like that experience, so reading the book kind of made you feel like, hey, I don't, there's
Yeah.
experiences out there in the world I need to go have.
Yeah, I felt like small and there were so many more exciting things that I needed to understand. And if I ever wanted to be good at what I did, I needed to have a bigger worldview. Again, not necessarily like specific to certain designers or certain like artistic styles, but more like how people live, where they live, what they eat. And I think all of those things compounded together would help me develop sort of my sense of design and my sense of process.
Oh, that's so interesting. I don't think, yeah, that's one thing that I don't think we think about a lot, how much creativity is impacted by broad experience and sort of opening your mind to other things. So it's fascinating that you bring that up. Where did that lead you? So if if you go out there, you start to have some experiences, you start to become professionally trained as a designer. So where did that take you?
Well, the first step I think is I needed a little bit more infrastructure. So I think how I believe like really good designers work isn't necessarily like they're super creative and they have bright ideas. They first have to have the infrastructure right. So going to school was really important. That was my first step. I think being technically proficient and really good at what you do and also being able to work with other people would enhance the other parts of it. So I was able to do it sort of that was my progression. And I don't think I would have been open to thinking differently and thinking conceptually without having the confidence from those first few steps of just getting good at using Illustrator, learning how to work with other designers, being able to take a crit. Those are all the things that are background and they're not as exciting sounding, but I think they're important to give you that strong base to kind of do something really bright and exciting.
Yeah, yeah. And where did you kick off your professional career?
First, I started in Dallas and I went to the Art Institute. There, I was able to get a lot of the technical skills that I want, and I had great instructors that showed me the right processes to do things. After that, I moved to New York because I wanted to experience that life as well. And while I was there, I worked as a program coordinator for Cornell University. They have an adult education program, and I helped them with the design for educational packets for adult learning. So it wasn't the most creative field, but it did get me to dip my foot into the arena as well.
Hmm.
I realized I took as much as I could from that city. It wasn't the best city for me. It was very creative, a lot of great museums, a lot of great food, but I think the pace actually didn't work with my creativity. So I actually moved to London, and while I was there, I worked at a gallery and an antiquarian bookshop, doing their graphic design, like with their website and photography. I was exposed to a lot of beautiful old prints and books. And then I also went to the Chelsea College of Art and Design, which is a really wonderful school, and their emphasis is on concept and ideas and strong communication versus just what something looks like. So that was my initial part of my journey. And so I got a lot of experience there, kind of expanding how I think with creativity, working with different people while also still fine-tuning my technical skills as well too. And I lived there for several years before I moved back to Dallas. And I jumped right into a couple of agencies, and I did a lot of advertising and design work for things like annual reports or websites or brochures. And I really enjoyed it because from a creative perspective, there's nothing that you can learn more from than working with other people and being in this pressure box. And all of the agencies that I worked with had like really fast timelines. They were high pressure. That we had to deliver a lot and deliver it quickly. And I think I learned so much. And I also made some of the best relationships I think I still continue to have. And those people still really influenced me greatly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you still carry those influences with you. And there's a couple of things you mentioned that I think are super interesting. One is like how much the importance of design is involved in communication. So like you kind of learning not only the technical skill, but it sounds like your experience not only in London, but even back here in Dallas working for these agencies. When we're communicating information about something, whether it's an annual report, whether it's, even something on a web page, it's like if you want to discover something about a subject, a person, a business, whatever it is, it has to be clean, but the design also has to be something beautiful to look at.
It is. It is sometimes hard to marry the messaging with the visuals. And I think what we've all discovered is that the more simple the design, the more effective the message is translated. And that sounds easy, but it's actually sometimes really hard to distill some complex ideas into something that is graphically clean or that isn't like super text heavy. And I worked with, I had a couple of creative directors that were really good at teaching me how to just see that the visual part of it should be supportive of the messaging. It shouldn't be the most important part of it. So that was a really good lesson to have. You learn early on in your career.
Yeah, that's cool. And if you zoom out and you think about design as a whole, why is design such an important thing? And how much impact do you feel like it has on our lives, even sometimes without us noticing?
I'm actually excited about this question because a couple of months ago, my son asked me what the fastest bird in the world was. And so we looked it up, and it is a peregrine falcon. I think I'm pronouncing it right. And they go like 200 miles an hour. And they are what a lot of these military bombers, their actual design is mimicked after this bird so that they can go so fast.
Oh, wow.
And then it kind of got me down this like spiral of learning them a little bit more about like biomimicry. And one of the most interesting things that I read about was slime mold. Have you ever heard of that? Slime mold, they just grow organically. And then what they did in Japan is the way they designed their train and transit system is they created a map of the country, marked where the different cities were, and then they placed the slime mold in those cities and see how they organically tried to connect with one another. And that created the most efficient transportation path.
Wow.
And if you think about design from that perspective of like, the answer is out there if you look, and using something that exists, that works, and then you just create this solution that is really effective and it's also been proven by nature. And I thought that was really amazing. There's like another example of it that, for example, the Shinkansen trains, they go super duper fast. And when they go through a tunnel, they create this like loud suction sound. So they mimicked the front of the train to look like a beak. And that creates this like aerodynamicism. And again, that is, I think, design in the best sense of the word. You're taking something that exists, it's super creative, and you're open to using nature and different sources to find a solution. That just blows my mind.
Yeah.
That's how people use design and use other elements in the world to create a solution.
Yeah, that is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, I didn't know about either of those things, but kind of amazing.
Yeah. You're looking for an answer not through the obvious places. And I think those are the answers that resonates with people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We had a neuroscientist on, and I had not learned this about the brain, but what you're saying is now kind of like making something gel for me, that I think is just really cool. And it's essentially that creativity emerges in the brain when there is synthesis, like when our different parts of our brain are all functioning and firing. And really, what's happening is all of these things you've seen, all of these ideas you have experienced out in the world, experiences you've had yourself, flavors you've tasted, smells you've had, all that stuff is just like coalescing into this sort of like stew,
Yeah.
right, of ideation. And it's cool that, yeah, you have these really great examples of how we watched mold grow, and that informs, oh, maybe this is the best way for our trains to be built.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen Last of Us, that TV show.
Mm-hmm.
The intro scene, they have a map of America, and you can kind of see the mold growing out. And I imagine that creative direction for that is sort of taken from that same model of mapping.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's a really cool usage of the influences around you to create something that's design oriented and so creative. I just
Yeah.
think it's the coolest.
Yeah, that's fascinating. What are the things you feel like you're looking for when you're approaching a project to boost your creativity? Are those like any tools that you use to
Like
kind
things
of,
that influence me.
yeah, things that help you just get in the zone?
I listen to music while I work. When I was driving over here, I was in the car and what was that? There was a song that or a soundtrack on. Have you seen Arrival?
Mhm.
And it was on in the background.
Mm.
And it's just like there's violins and it goes up and it crescendos and it's really exciting. And that made me, even while I was driving, feel creative because I started daydreaming and I started thinking about that. So I think having things like that will help with creativity. Simple things like having a clean workspace and also having your infrastructure set up correctly. Like, what is my plan to do the step? I don't want to just sit behind my computer and start working. I want to have already mapped out like what's the main point? What's the message? What do I want to get across to the customer or visitor? What's the most important thing? And those are the things that dictate the outcome. So I like to set all of those up first. Like the skeleton is set up before I actually even start the creative process.
Hmm.
And I think some people may think that part is kind of boring. I actually really love it. The organization, I think, can be creative. Getting ideas and collaborating with other people to get all your assets together, I think, is creative. And also it creates a really positive environment, which I think that's what creativity is about.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that you're almost like you're setting up the exact conditions that you
Yeah.
prefer, and that might be leaving space to daydream, might
Mhm.
be quiet moments, but it also comes down to like clean workspace,
Yes.
tools where you need them. I make music in my spare time, and I realized that the only way that I will actually sit down and spend time doing it is if everything is plugged in always, and the only thing I have to do is walk in the room and turn the power on,
Yeah.
and then everything is just there and ready to
Yep.
go. So I not thinking about it before, but I think what you're saying is interesting, that it's like it really, your conditions have to be just right and they
Yeah.
have to be ready.
Well, when we did a lot more letterpress printing, I think a big part of starting to print is like setting up the workspace and getting your press ready, making sure your paper's trimmed, everything's in the right corner. And that actually takes more time than the actual running of the press time. I think my brother and I both found that really relaxing to do. And once all that's set up, the printing is so fast. And then the cleanup time, I think having that routine and those steps makes the whole creative process feel really enriching.
Yeah, yeah. When you think about your approach to design now, because now, if I'm not mistaken, you are in a leadership role.
I am. I'm currently the director of art and design at the Dallas Museum of Art. I lead a team that what we do is we produce all the assets for our marketing campaigns, that whether it is promoting an exhibition or highlighting certain guest experiences, basically making sure that the full museum experience is really positive and fun for all of our visitors, and also to hopefully drive revenue for the museum as well too. I really enjoy that. We have a great team. Everybody is very collaborative. I think what's nice about it is there's a nice division of labor too. So there are people that help us with the marketing part. We have the designers. We have a comms team as well. And I think instead of having like sort of a jack of all trades, we have different people doing different things. I think that creates the best results because those are people are experts in specific things and they don't have to be good at everything.
Yeah. And as a creative leader, because leading a team, I always find so fascinating when it comes down to creatives leading a team. I mean, for me, obviously, I lead my team here at Equilateral and at the podcast, but early in my career as a creative, that was not the expectation. I didn't
Right.
know that one day I would be managing people. I really enjoy it because I just love people. I love collaborating, so I love that process. Is there anything you've noticed that have become new skill sets for you as you've become a creative leader? Like, I feel like for me, I had to learn a lot to become a
Yeah.
better manager and a better leader. Are there any things that you've noticed that have worked really well when it comes to creative leadership?
Well, I'm still kind of learning the right approach. And at first, I didn't know if it was something that I would like because I'm a competitive person. But now that I've done it for a little bit, when I see that my team come up with solutions that are even better than what we originally set out to, that's what drives me. That's the exciting part.
Hmm.
Like just to have, I think, a little hand in that, that's the reward. Also, giving your team the space to develop it, I think, is a big part of it. Let them figure it out and kind of mess up along the way. And I think the criticism or the critiques that I give them are really only message related. Is it effective? Is it communicating what we want? I think visuals and styles is very personal. As long as it still follows sort of the general brand of the museum, I'm really good with that. But I think the messaging is most important. That drives my direction with my team. I
Hmm.
think that creates a more positive experience for them and hopefully one that they're learning from as well too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I feel like I could even heed that advice with my own team sometimes, probably. I think I get too wrapped up sometimes in the details and don't give them enough space.
It's hard. I won't lie. Sometimes I'm like, "Ah, just let me do it or it'll be faster," or I see the solution quicker. But almost every single time they come up with a solution that's even better than the one that I would have thought of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think that's an interesting part that you mentioned too, because I think I feel the same way a lot. Like because of the amount of experience,
Mhm.
right? When you've been doing something for a long enough time, you can see a solution quicker. So
Mhm.
you can just see further down the road.
Right.
And if there's fast turn times and things involved, maybe that's more advantageous to apply that solution that you can see just because you can see
Yeah.
further. But giving them the space to like try some stuff, mess up.
It's the best feeling when you're surprised, right?
Yeah.
And they do something like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that." That makes me feel so proud of them, and also it makes me feel lucky to be working with them. And I just want to make sure those are I think the little things that we can kind of control. So hopefully I can stick with that with sort of the leadership part of that.
Mhm. Yeah. Rewinding, because it makes me wanna ask you a question, that I think is sort of a fun one. Where do you have your best ideas? Is it in the car? Is it in the shower? Is it just standing outside with a cup of coffee in the morning? Where do you feel like those ideas come to you like lightning?
I can answer that because very recently I was able to go out of town by myself for a little bit.
Hmm.
I went to a museum, I went to the Met, and I went to see this exhibit, and I was able to linger. So I think for the best spaces for me to come with ideas is just when I have a quiet moment. It could be anywhere. So I think taking a trip alone is always good, having a meal by myself, taking myself on a date. My husband's really good about letting me have those things. Those are the moments that create the best creativity for me, where I feel like a lot less pressure
Mm.
and I can just let my mind wander and linger where and let it stay there for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've been reading a lot more this year, and I haven't been doing that a lot these last few years. And I think that has also spurred something in my mind too, where I am seeing solutions differently, or more, there's just more of a wide range of things in my mind right now. So that's been good.
That's interesting. So you feel like modifying your inputs a little
Yes.
bit has changed how you think about
Yeah.
things.
And I've been picking like different books. Some of them are about like people from the South. Some of them are about like Katrina, or just like I think having different things in my mind, just almost like traveling again, has allowed me to feel creative again,
Mm.
and be creative in that way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting that that is something that I feel a lot. Whenever I modify my inputs, that starts to change how
Mm-hmm.
I see things, or even just how you problem
Yeah.
solve, you know? So yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that you've sort of started to experience some of that recently. And that when you think about that modification, it's almost like another aspect of just creating the right conditions,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool.
It is really nice. I mean, because when those conditions are right, you're not thinking about silly things like I have to pick up milk, or these things that'll always be there, but you have a little bit more freedom. And it is a luxury to be able to let your mind wander and linger. I
Yeah.
think it is, it's really precious.
Yeah. At what point in your journey do you decide you're going to start We Are 1976? For those who might not know, just kind of talk about what that is while you're discussing the origination of that idea.
About 15 years ago, I was working at the agencies. After working for several years, I decided that I wanted to try and do something a little bit different. I was in a lucky position that I had family that also felt the same way. And what we wanted to do was open a shop in Dallas that collected and showcased and highlighted things that we thought were inspiring and creative that we loved. We definitely benefited from a lot of what was happening in Dallas in the small creative community. They had fun activities like ArtCon. There was different shops around town that supported local artists, and we also wanted to be a part of that and be a part of that network to support people, give them a creative outlet, and also give them things that we thought was fun that would delight them as well too. So we were in 1976, and we are still here. And right now the shop is mainly run by my brother Derek and my sister-in-law Julie, and they've done a wonderful job of continuing curating beautiful objects from all around the world that are unique and handmade and that have really wonderful stories that make people happy, and then also supporting the Dallas community by showcasing a lot of their work and providing a platform for them to have their objects to sell. I'm really proud of that, and I'm constantly impressed with Derek and Julie with how they maintain it. It's a fun place, and I hope when people come in, they have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's definitely something that I feel like is sort of this amazing gem of Dallas. Like I feel like we're lucky that you guys started it, that you and your family, you know, started that shop.
We were lucky. We didn't know what we were doing. I mean, it was very authentic and earnest in that we just thought, "Oh, this print is really fun. It's affordable. Maybe we should sell it at our shop so that somebody else could have it as well too and be inspired by it." And through that, and people were interested in these things that people were making and creating. And then we started offering workshops like screen printing workshops or letterpress workshops, origami workshops, and it became this like creative hub for many years for people to come and just hang out and have fun and be creative. And it's it was really special. It's just a really special place.
Yeah, yeah, it is a really special place. It's something that when I remember walking in there for the first time, just feeling how cool and amazing it was, because I think what ends up happening is that curation of objects, art, that the whole experience of being in a place like We Are 1976 that just enhances the creative experience altogether. Just being inside the space enhances your creative experience just because you're getting exposed, right, to so many things. I never thought about the fact that it really is a hub. It's a hub where a lot of artists could go and teach a workshop, participate in a workshop, sell their works. The experience of being a part of it, and if you were even just around it, you know, like from me, I just was orbiting it, right?
We felt really lucky. I mean, we had like cool prints like from you or from different artists town, and people would come and buy it and decorate their first home or their first apartment,
Mm-hmm.
or where they would come and give a birthday gift to their brother or their mom. And so the creativity was tied to people's personal experiences and special milestones. It is an honor to be able to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is creative and it's personal, and it's fun to see people walking around the shops, and like we'll have, beautiful handmade, like woven things that are so delicate, or we'll have handmade ceramic cats doing funny things. And it is such a joy to see customers come in and have fun in there and feel moved by it. We're really lucky.
Yeah, yeah. And for those watching, we'll put links in the show notes and stuff where you can find 376. When it comes to, I think you're kind of touching on with 376 another interesting part of creativity that I kind of love. Part of this podcast and part of the goal of this podcast is to inspire that creative thinking, that creative force just within everyone. And to remind people that it's not just creative professionals who are creative when it comes to how they're thinking or solving a problem. I mean, creativity is everywhere. It's involved in science, engineering, anything you can think of, cooking a great meal at home. I mean, the most basic stuff is really involving creativity and creative thinking and creative approaches. So when you think about the workshops that you hosted, how did you see them impact people that would come in that maybe weren't traditionally an artist, or even if they were traditionally an artist?
I think what was nice about our space was we had a very informal environment. So it wasn't like they were coming here to get a specific degree. They were all project-based workshops. What we wanted was people to come in, walk away with something that they created, and feel the satisfaction and joy of that. And I think because it was laid back and relaxed, people were responsive to that. There was no judgment. And it was about also just getting your hands dirty, because we're all working behind computers all the time. I think this was a nice break for students that came in.
You're so right how it just the experience of
Mm.
something like that and the ownership over a project and being able to walk away with this artifact. That's so cool. And then, for you, I'm just curious personally, how has creativity played a role in your life when you really zoom out and you think of it just high level? So not even just career, not just personal life or anything like that, but just everything in general. How has it changed or shaped who you are?
Actually, one of the best examples I think is during COVID, during the lockdown, I got really into sewing, and just watched a million YouTube videos on how to do it. And I learned that I made the most over-engineered drawstring pants for my brother one year that were like, um, but I think that for me was a part of creativity, was learning about the process. I think like doing all the research, finding out like what a French seam is, what the right scissors to use was. Do I need a fancy sewing machine? Like how to cut patterns.
Hmm.
I think, again, back to the infrastructure of it. For me, that's a part of the creativity. I like building it from the base level. If I still had more time now, I think I would do it more often. I don't really have that time for that, but the creativity part, I think, gives my mind something to focus on, and it helps with the other parts of my life too, with just giving me a little bit more balance. And I wouldn't say that it's a distraction. I would just say that it just gives me joy to do that discovery part of it.
Yeah, okay. More of an outlet, like less of a distraction, more of an outlet.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that's interesting. Is it always something that you feel like, because I mean, obviously I've seen you do letterpress, I've seen you do prints that are great. I mean, I still have some of them hanging in my wife and I are in our house. So is the pursuit something you've always done?
I love it. I love whether it's like a YouTube video teacher, or when we learned how to do the letterpress, we had the person that we bought our press from, they flew down from Boston and showed us how to do it. There's just so many things you don't know, and it's so awesome to get to know a little bit of it. So yes, I think the pursuit is a part of my creative process. It's really fun to think of the possibilities of what you can do after you get the basics down.
Hmm.
And so we were able to produce a really beautiful line of prints for the shop with the letterpress. And I think even just doing that helped me with other parts of my design profession. Some of my favorite designers, they take these complex, sometimes political or cultural ideas, and they have the most simple graphics for them. And they make it look easy. And I think that is my target when I'm thinking about if I'm thinking about my own creative goals.
Yeah, there was someone on the podcast recently who who talked about the best design is stuff that we just don't even notice.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you think about your skill set, I'm just curious. When I look at your work, I obviously see amazing style. I see all of these cool things when it comes to like the prints or designs you do at the DMA. All of this design work, do you feel like this is something that came pretty naturally to you, or did you have to practice really, really hard for many, many hours, do you feel like, to get the results that you want?
I think I had to practice. I think through my education, the goal was always like, how do I communicate this message the most effectively? And I think that dictated the aesthetic part of it, which is
Hmm.
in general, hopefully super clean, very direct, maybe a little bit whimsical, and hopefully a little bit clever too. That just came over time and doing it over the years. I am deeply influenced, like I said, by, the illustrators that are super simple, like Thomas Gold. He, like I said, he just uses two colors
Mhm.
and his drawings is like stick men. And every time I'm like, oh my God, that's so brilliant. Or Oded Azair, he uses typography. He actually cuts out the type in Little People and he makes it like sculptural in 3D. My work doesn't look like that, but what I like about it is he brings things to life and he makes it super delightful. That's why I try to add something a little bit warmer to what I'm doing that doesn't look as severe and minimalist and rigid. So those are, I think, just keeping your eyes open and being influenced by different artists is really important as well too. And that takes time too. You'll find the ones that you like the most and maybe take the good bits of that.
If you were really to distill down some of the creative tools, it's like giving yourself the space, number one, to allow that synthesis to take place in your brain and just like really hone in on all of those experiences you maybe have had or ideas. And then making sure to stay open to experiencing new processes
Yeah.
and making sure to abstract the right things from those processes. Because it sounds like you're abstracting like not specific things in a process, but more how someone did something and why they did it,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
But I think the main thing of creativity, like you said, is just being open and just realizing it. Sometimes it's an active thing where you're actually doing it, and sometimes it's just in your mind and you're just kind of like it's percolating.
Yeah, and that to me is always a tough one. I feel like for creatives, that voice in your head that kind of tells you a narrative about yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's influenced by maybe some external
Hmm.
other voices in the world or criticism or whatever that might be. How do you, as a creative professional, how do you quiet that voice or that negative voice that might try to steer you a different direction or the narrative, the wrong narrative in your head? How do you quiet that voice and focus on the right
Are
stuff?
you saying like insecurities if someone's producing something really great and you're not? Oh, I won't lie. I used to feel that a lot more pressure. I think just personally because my life has changed with having a little boy, I just had to make a decision how what I do creatively and what I produce needs to change. I can't do like 10 different prints at the end of the year. Maybe just reading a few books. That's
Mm.
my creativity. Being less hard on myself was a big part of that. And hopefully, when my son gets a little bit bigger or a little older, I'll have a little bit more time to do the things that I am very keen to kind of focus on again, which is doing more prints and posters. They're still there, but I'm just putting them off to the side and giving myself permission not to feel pressure to produce.
It is, and I don't know if this is something that comes with age, or if this is something that comes with maybe experience, but it is something that I feel like I've recently come to as well. There was almost just like this tipping point, and I don't have kids, but this tipping point in life where you just kind of decide I can no longer measure myself by what I produce,
Yes.
and I can't allow other people to measure me by those things either. And then with that, I feel like always comes this, maybe I need to focus on things that are more important to me personally, and those things can be simple. I don't always have to be creating some
Yeah.
thing.
It could just be like if you are passionate about music or whatever, you're really good at producing your artwork, and maybe it's just part of the creativity is changing it to, I'm just going to listen to other people's music for a full month,
Yeah.
you know, and just kind of reframing it that way. And for me, it was reading more books versus like kicking myself for not doing more work.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that a lot of us suffer from
Yeah.
maybe pretty continuously. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I wasted that 3 hours.
Yes, yes. But I think that's just like the creative mindset. If you're not producing, then um, you're no good. And I don't think that's true. I think it's just maybe your mind just needs a break. And when you feel super passionate about it, that's when that burst of energy will come when you're ready to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it calls back to kind of what you said before, where it's like you read that book and realized I need to learn more and I need more experiences. And I think that's, to me, that seems like what we're saying is that's part of the creative process is you have to have those experiences. You have to step away and go and get more inputs,
Yeah.
more experience, more whatever it is. Go have great food, read great books,
Mhm.
see great movies. Whatever that stuff is, you just have to go experience it so you can reinvigorate.
Yeah. And just like let it sit in your mind a little bit longer. I mean, just because you see something that's very inspiring, it doesn't mean you have to do something the next day,
Yeah.
which is something that I had to tell myself many times, and to not compare yourself to other people that are producing a lot because you don't know what their lives are like. You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't know what the truth of anyone's life is like
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. I have a colleague, her name is Milan, and she is a illustrator and ceramicist, and she's always producing. And for many times I think her work is beautiful and whimsical, and even though she's producing all the time, I think she also sometimes feels pressure that she needs to do more and more. So I don't know if as a creative will ever feel like it's enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's a conversation I feel like I've had with a lot of other creatives, and it's the thing I always tell them is like the hole inside of you will never be full.
That
You know, it's just that's part of
sounds
the.
so sad.
It sounds so sad, but at the same time, it's like that's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah.
It's the thing that pushes you to drive to the next question that you want
Yeah.
answered or the next process you want to
Yeah.
dissect. One thing that I think is really cool about you is you have a broad set of creative experience. So a lot of times, people end up specializing for like a whole career. And while you might say design sort of encapsulates everything that you do, I think there's just such a broad range of experience that you have underneath that. So I kind of want to ask you, and especially now since you're at the Dallas Museum of Art, I want to ask you about culture and art's relationship with culture. And the main reason is how do you feel like art is a reflection of or is a representation of cultural elements and cultural experiences? The reason I pose this
Yeah.
question is partially because operating now as creative professionals
Mhm.
in the age of artificial intelligence,
Ah, okay.
creativity to me is so much about the human experience, as we've been kind of
Yeah.
discussing. So I'm just curious, what happens to culture as we move forward if we're offsetting the labor of creation
Okay.
to
I see what you're
machines?
saying. I was in New York a couple weeks ago for a UX conference,
Hmm.
and one of the main topics of discussion that they had was about AI. And the general theme of the conference is if you're afraid of it, you're going to be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't disagree with that, but I also would like to add on a little bit more to that. There were a couple of people that I was at the conference with, and they worked for major news organizations, and they did not have an AI policy of how they were going to whether they were generating images or getting copy ideas or things like that. I don't think we can even tackle this idea of what is created or the culture of it until we at least set some guidelines and rules. But at the same time, I feel like the things, the movies, the artwork that resonate with me are more personal,
Mm-hmm.
and you could feel it. You could definitely feel it with music. You could see it with art, and you could feel it when you read it. AI or ChatGPT can create clever copy, but is it personal? Does it
Mm-hmm.
does it actually do the thing that you want it to do? So I think we first have to set a couple of rules first. I think we should expect companies to have guidelines and standards so that we as consumers know what is real and what is not first.
Yeah.
I feel like we're being irresponsible we're too excited about it, and we're being irresponsible with how we're using it, and we shouldn't think that we're going to be left behind by it. I think the idea is if we can control it, then we can control the parameters of how we use it.
Yeah. Yeah, controlling those parameters, I think, is extremely important, especially when you consider the things that we feed into it. Because what these machines are really good at, essentially, is just mimicry.
Yeah, like if I was a client and I came to you or me and like, hey, help me do this campaign, and then I found out that AI produced it, I would feel so gypped, right?
Yeah.
I would feel like, well, what am I paying you for? I could figure this out myself. So in a way, we're diluting our own skills
Mm.
and we're taking away our own value.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think you raised a good point about calling into question how we value the creative process.
Yeah.
And that can be anything, right? That can be just someone at home generating an image of
Yeah.
whatever, or how we actually, creative professionals, value our time, input, and the creative process that we have developed over years and years and years. And using AI, so like us using artificial intelligence to generate things to get something done quicker and off the plate, in a way, I think it's interesting that you bring up, it sort of does devalue in the long term. So paying attention to how much does this wave of interest impact your actual workflows?
You're only a good leader or a good creative if you understand the basis of how the foundations of something works. And if AI is doing it for you, what do you understand?
It's not that it shortens the learning curve.
Yeah.
It's that in a lot of cases, it actually removes the learning curve. So you don't get to have the experience that teaches you the thing you're trying to learn or use it for.
Yeah, you skip the justifications for something or the reasoning behind something, and those are the juicy bits that makes the messaging or the art or the design really good.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That it really is something that, even though it's great and it's a good shortcut for whatever it is you might be using it for, that shortcut will shortcut you in the long run.
Yeah.
Switching gears, for you, what does the future hold? What excites you about your creative future, and where do you feel like you're headed?
I just want to travel more, read more, and do these things with my family. And again, like I think it organically will help me with my work, whether it's at my job or with a personal passion project. I know that's a loose answer, but I want to be more in the moment with experiencing these things.
Yeah, I love that. Well, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much
Thank you.
for coming on the show and sharing your creative perspective and telling us about your process, because I think it's super valuable. I've always loved your work, obviously, and just makes me so excited that other people are going to get to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Roger.
Our executive producers are myself and Jessica Kramer. Our producer is Giselle Saucedo. Our editors are Max Smith and Garrett Alloway. Music by Creators. I'm your host, Roger Peters. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.